Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're analyzing source material that really pushes for radical prioritization.
hmm
It centers on one, well, incredible and provocative claim that the presence of the divine, called O Lord in the text, is actually better than life itself.
Right.
We're not so much digging into the theology here, but looking at it as a kind of deep strategy, a framework that asks you to completely redefine value.
It really does. It immediately puts this high stakes question to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you accept that your number one priority is something infinite better than, breath, family, security, even earthly happiness, then what happens to all the other, well, finite concerns you have?
So everything else gets reevaluated.
Completely. The sources basically frame it as the ultimate decision problem.
Okay, so let's unpack that first bit. The source talks about this initial effect, maybe we can call it the fading effect.
That's a good way to put it.
It describes how earthly cares, anxieties, even those quick flashes of happiness, they just vanish like morning mist before the rising sun when compared to this divine presence.
And the key thing to grasp there, analytically, is that it's not just pretty language, it's a technique.
A technique.
Yeah, of radical comparative devaluation. The source basically says you must intentionally assign like a zero value to all temporal goals, money, status, short-term pleasure relative to this infinite priority.
So earthly treasures are framed as things that always fade, disappoint, or leave the soul empty.
Exactly. They're unreliable investments, essentially.
So if that's the issue, that everything temporary fades, the source says you have to replace that focus with something designed not to fade,
Precisely.
which I guess brings us to the idea of the unfailing portion. The text calls this relationship the soul's inheritance.
That's right. And you need to think of this priority as a non-degradable asset.
Unlike earthly security.
Totally unlike it. This portion, it explicitly states, doesn't fade with age, nor rust with time, nor spoil with corruption.
It's like an investment strategy.
Kind of, yeah. The source is saying, stop pouring energy into, let's say, short-term stocks, those fleeting pleasures, and put everything into this infinite return, non-degradable bond. That's the unfailing portion.
And this total commitment, it's really captured in that quote from the psalmist. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is none upon earth that I desire besides you.
That's powerful.
It's like a radical zero-sum desire, no room left for anything else, heaven or earth.
And that thinking lays the groundwork for the really big claim, better than life itself.
Yeah, let's get into that.
The distinction it makes is, well, razor sharp. The sources do acknowledge precious gifts like breath, family, the beauty of creation, but they're called shadows compared to the giver. The gifts are secondary.
Okay, but hold on. The claim is huge. When the text says life, does that include, really profound suffering or just pleasant day-to-day existence? Because saying the giver is better than existence even through terrible pain, that's a very hard line.
It is, and the text makes that distinction very clear. Life without this core priority is called merely existence, a wandering in darkness.
Okay.
But life with it, even a life full of suffering and trials, is seen as abundant, overflowing, and filled with eternal meaning.
So it fundamentally changes how you measure gain and loss.
Absolutely. It asserts that this spiritual priority is like an infinite value variable. It just automatically pushes all the finite variables to the margins.
And the trade-off is, put bluntly, in losing the world but gaining you, I have gained everything.
But that's the calculation.
I think where this gets really practical, maybe for how you structure your day, is the instruction to practice this awareness. It's not just for prayer time. The text says remain in this presence throughout every hour of the day, whether it's joy, sorrow, work, rest.
It's basically a call for constant mental recalibration, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you accept this infinite core priority, how do you stop your mind slipping back into valuing the finite stuff? The sources claim that keeping up this constant hourly awareness is the actual mechanism.
The mechanism for what?
For how the world loses its power. It leads to transformation, renewal, finding fullness of joy. That's the claimed result.
It's a really fascinating analytical framework they've built. We've seen the sources set up this world defined by constantly fading temporal value.
Right, and contrasted that sharply with a life defined by this eternal, unfailing value.
So the core takeaway seems to be this practical challenge.
I think so. What does this strategy actually mean for how you allocate your energy, your focus? The text really forces you to categorize everything you value.
So the final thought for you, the listener, might be this. Looking at your own life, what things feel like that fading mist the text describes? the stuff that dissolves.
And crucially, what, if anything, do you identify as your truly non-degradable, unfailing portion? That's the question it leaves you with.